Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey Podcast, the podcast where me and my good friend Dan today, no Charlie, talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL Week 4 in the books. And we've actually got our first interview of the season as well, with Swindon Wildcats forward Tyler Watkins. He kindly said he'd hop on, and I interviewed him earlier on today. So this will probably be released Wednesday, as people are watching. But yeah, Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all good, mate. Thank you.
We had some news just come out, that the Basingstoke Bison ice rink is ready. And there's some pictures which have been released as well, and they look really cool. The new Bison logo in the middle, the fresh stands. Dan, it could finally be happening this Saturday.
Ah, mate, it's finally time. Yeah, it looks really good actually. I didn't expect it to look like that, especially this early on. I mean, I thought it was going to be something that maybe over a few years or a few months it might have sort of got to that, but I didn't expect it to look like this straight away. But yeah, I'm excited to see it in person on Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be loud. It's still the same old barn, which we've known over all these years, but just looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. So yeah, Solway Sharks, they're in for one because it is going to be loud on that first game back, um, for the Bison at home. But we'll get into this weekend because I don't think there's any other news. There isn't any signings. Actually, sorry, there was a signing. It was last week before this weekend, and it was Cole Shudra for a one gamer. And this caused a bit of controversy. Dan, I mean, when you've got the pathway, you can use it with Brits. When they put out that tweet about the import herd possibly joining the Steel Dogs, you're thinking, all right, there's something dodgy going on here. But Cole Shudra, he's played in the league before, obviously with the Knights, dominated with the Knights, and he come down for that one game. I'm still unsure on whether he can play more than 3 games. I think because of the Elite League, even if he's over 25, he might be able to play more than three. But either way, it's not a bad player to bring in the lineup, but it does show that the Steel Dogs were struggling, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell obviously it showed that they just brought him in for that game. You can tell they needed to get points from that, and obviously they didn't. But they still brought him in, and I mean, they were using what tools they had and what tools they can use to sort of try and get the upper hand on Swindon. But yeah, I mean, it must be nice to have something like that, I guess. Just having
Yeah,
a player just there and ready to come down whenever they want.
I think
But yeah, like you said, he might be there for 3 games. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it
Cole
works.
Cole Shudra is a guy who I think would put his ego out the door, and play for the Steel Dogs. And I think he's a guy who knows the league. He got his elite league spot by performing at a high level in the National League, and I loved watching Cole Shudra for the Leeds Knights. So, but as we'll get on to the game, it didn't really make a difference. And I think it shows you can bring anyone in. We had a few Steelers fans saying F Swindon, like all of this rubbish that he's too good for the league. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but it's at the end of the day, it's just another player coming into a team for one game, as they said. And he didn't play on that Sunday play for the Steelers. Hello and welcome back. We've got another special guest, our first of this season. I'm delighted to be joined by Tyler Watkins from the Swindon Wildcats. How you doing, mate?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. 4 point weekend, a tough one on the Sunday, but yeah, that could be a very valuable 4 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like you said, good to get 4 points, but yeah, Sunday it was a tough game to score, obviously. I thought we played really well, but yeah, could get one in the back of the net for a while, but really big to come out of there with 2 points that night.
How good has Eddie Bebrist been this season? Obviously, he's been playing D the last couple of years, obviously, and he's gone back to forward this season. How cool is it to have him on the team?
It's been awesome. He's been really good to us since we got here, and yeah, obviously coming in, they were telling us that he was playing D last year, and so I mean, from what I've seen, he looks like a natural forward up there. So
Yeah.
I didn't see much of a transitional phase for him. So no,
Yeah.
he's been awesome.
Well, he was a forward, then he went to D, and he slotted straight back into forward, and he's been great so far. We'll talk about the Wildcats in a bit. We'll go back to the start. Obviously, growing up in America, was it Minnesota you growing up in?
Yeah, so pretty much I guess born in Florida, was there for like a year or so. Both my parents are originally from Colorado, so moved back there. And then by the time I was in third grade, we moved to Minnesota, and so that's kind of where everything started for me.
And why ice hockey? Because ice hockey's not the main sport out in America, but yeah, why did you choose to go down the hockey route?
Yeah, I think while it's not the main sport in America, it's definitely the main sport in Minnesota.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so yeah, kind of moving there. I was pretty typical kid. I was playing every sport imaginable, and then kind of really got into hockey once I was there. And so yeah, kind of as I grew up and got older, obviously the sports had to start narrowing down of what you could play, and
Yeah.
so figured out that hockey was the one for me, and so decided to pursue that.
Nice one. And obviously, you played a few seasons juniors for the Minnesota Wilderness. How was that before COVID struck?
Yeah, so I mean that was a really unique experience. Obviously, most people leave home for juniors, and I was fortunate enough to get drafted and tendered actually with the team that was the closest to me. So I was only about 30 minutes away from the rink, so I still got to live at home for those two
Nice.
years. And so no, that was a really good experience and definitely helped me grow as a player a lot there.
Nice
And
one.
then yeah, so got to almost play 2 full years there, and then yeah, COVID shut down the end of my last season there.
Was it always um was the route always going to be to try and get into the NCAA? I know you had that COVID kind of season and then you finally got into that college, but was it always to go down that route?
Yeah, for me, I think college was kind of the route for me, and obviously now things are changing with major junior players being able to play in college hockey now. So, but yeah, before that, the for me the route was always to try to go through the NCAA.
Yeah, obviously we get a lot of imports in the come to the National League from the U Sports. Talk us through a bit about sorry, the NCAA, that league. Obviously, it's still a college league, but it's American, I guess.
Yeah, no, so it's still a college league. I mean, they're up to 60 something teams now, I believe. And so I was out east in the ECAC and playing for Union in New York. So we were pretty much at a conference with all the Ivy Leagues, and then teams like Quinnipiac and Clarkson and Colgate, St. Lawrence, teams like that. So primarily we stayed out there. We made a couple trips around Colorado or Michigan and things like that. But primarily we are just playing teams kind of in or around the Northeast region.
Yeah, who was some of the big names you played against in NCAA who's I guess gone on to do really well maybe in the NHL?
Oof, there's a lot of them, I guess. I mean, one Colin Graff, he started at Union.
Oh yeah.
He came in a year or so after me, and then he ended up transferring to Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
And then he was on that Quinnipiac team that won the national championship. And so we got to see all those guys that were on the championship team 3 or 4 times that year. And but yeah, there's plenty of big names that have kind of played with or against that have gone on to have pretty good careers.
How would you sum up the kind of 3 years you had in the NCAA? What kind of hockey was it? Because I guess it's every junior trying to, or not junior, college student trying to battle for, I guess, after college getting that spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it kind of, I think battle is probably the perfect way to describe it. Obviously, it's a little different than now. You got school Monday through Friday, and then if you're on the road, you're taking tests on the bus or at the hotel and things like that. But yeah, obviously, pretty much every player that's playing there, their goal is to go on and play after. So yeah, every Friday and Saturday night, it's obviously a smaller ice sheet in a lot of rinks over there as well. So it is just a battle, and but it's a pretty fun and unique experience.
And then in that final year, you got the A on your jersey as well. How was that being one of the older guys in the team and having a bit of leadership come into play?
No, it was good. Obviously we had a really good group that year, so it was a pretty easy transition. Been with a lot of those guys for a while, and so we had quite a few really good leaders on that team. So for me, it wasn't much of a change that I needed to make at all. Just kind of be myself, and those guys were awesome, so they made our jobs really easy.
Was it always um, kind of not a dream, but were you always looking to try and move out to Europe and play European hockey? Because you obviously went to Hungary the season after.
Yeah, I think for me, I guess I don't know exactly when it hit. I knew like going into it, I was hoping in college that I'd be able to continue to play after. I guess I didn't really have a destination in
Yeah.
mind, but then I think maybe kind of junior, senior years when it kind of started to sink in that I thought that this would be a pretty unique experience. I've heard guys doing it, guys that played previously at Union that had done it. So kind of started to reach out to those guys, see what they thought about it, get some kind of advice on things like that. And so, yeah.
Nice one. And you ended up going with the Erste Liga in Hungary. Yeah, talk us through that move because that's quite a unique kind of country to start off with in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think kind of going into it, I didn't really know what options were going to be like. Obviously, coming out of school, and obviously the more traditional route I would say is to kind of get some experience in North America in any of the leagues before you try to come over. I think that that's not an easier route, but maybe a more conventional route for a lot of
What,
guys.
like the
So
ECHL?
yeah, and so I decided I didn't want to do that, so wanted to try to just go right away. And so yeah, it was obviously an experience where I was like, I don't know what I'm fully getting into, but I'm going into it. I was excited going into it with an open mind, and yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
Obviously, I'll talk about. I'll ask you a question off the ice because we've already had a chat obviously at the pub about your time in Hungary, but you were on the team which did finish bottom of the league. How
Yeah.
tough was that? But also, you were the top point scorer of that team. So how much of a challenge was it for you that season to try and lead the team?
Yeah, I think we were just a really kind of young team is the way I
Yeah,
would describe us. And so we're a hardworking team. We're in a lot of games, but just couldn't really seem to get over that hump.
yeah.
And so obviously, yeah, it gets tough by the middle of the year when you're not having the team success you want. But we did have another really good group of guys there, which definitely made it a lot easier to come to the rink every day and just try to get better and in any way we can.
And Hungary itself, I know your girlfriend come over and you had some very cheap meals, some cheap beers out there. Do you want to talk us through kind of yeah how cheap it was out there?
Yeah, I mean, so I was like probably 30 minutes outside of Budapest, so it was definitely a little shocking uh coming over the first time and going to the store and obviously they use the Hungarian forint there, so I was not even fully comfortable with like the exchange of money, and so we had a little bit of cash that I exchanged at the airport, and so trying to figure it out, got home and did the conversions, and I was like, wow, I just had dinner and I spent like $6.
Much cheaper than over in America or even England.
Absolutely, yeah. The transition this year was definitely a little more consistent, I would say, with prices that are back home and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You finish that season then in the Erste Liga. How did the move to Swindon come about? Because it was a later movement. Swindon were one of the final teams to complete their kind of import course. So yeah, how did you end up getting in touch with Aaron?
Yeah, so actually, Aaron reached out to my agent, and
Oh, no.
that's just kind of how things got started with that. Passed along his information to me and had a couple really good chats with him. And yeah, so definitely was a little bit later in the summer. But yeah, it just kind of came about through Aaron reaching out to my agent.
What was it about? England coming over here playing in the National League. Had you ever heard of the National League? I know the Elite League is quite a well-known one for England, but yeah, had you ever heard of the National League?
I had, yeah. I mean, we've just kind of looked into it over the summer, looking at just kind of all the different leagues and things over here and what they have to offer. Because obviously, you don't fully know. At least I was coming in with a pretty open mind.
Yeah.
What I at least told my agent is I was open to kind of go wherever wherever's gonna want me, whatever's whoever's gonna take me and hopefully give me a role that like a larger role I could play in the team was something I was looking for. And then obviously, like we touched on with last year a little bit, I was really looking for a competitive team and a team that kind of was looking to win. And so I think those are kind of some of the big things that Aaron mentioned when we spoke that kind of that drew me here.
Well, you were the last, I guess, signing for the team after Logan. Had Aaron kind of bigged up the squad which he'd put together for this season?
Yeah, no, he was really excited about it, and I think that was something that really helped sell it is just hearing how excited he was
Yeah.
about it over the phone.
Nice one. And you get to England. I think I got told you hadn't played an actual game since February the season before because Hungary, the Erste Liga ended a bit earlier than the
Yeah.
National League.
Yeah, obviously we didn't make the playoffs last year, so yeah, I think the last time I played the full competitive game, yeah, it was probably last February, which is it was bonkers to kind of for me at least to go home and have all that extra time um in between seasons.
I remember I was at that training session to meet kind of all the players, and you told me you literally landed, I think, that day, and you hadn't got any sleep, and then you went straight to training that night.
Yeah, no, that was looking back on it, it made it a really fun practice. But yeah, I was definitely very tired that day. Yeah, I got off the plane, just kind of got into town and dropped our stuff off, and yeah, right to the rink for the training session.
Well, you're settled in. You got the preseason games. Was it what you expected? What kind of expectations or what were you thinking coming into the league? Did you know kind of did you was it what you expected?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I expected it to be um pretty tight league from kind of what I was even talking about with Aaron over the phone. I think kind of I know they recently added an extra import to get up to four imports, and I think kind of that's really made the league almost more competitive. And I don't think there's too many outliers in one way or the other. So obviously every game that we've played in has been a tight game and a close game, no matter what the score reflects. And had been fortunate enough to have a really good start
Yeah.
team wise, but. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty much what I was expecting. I think coming in, I was expecting that most games are going to be hard, and I think that's what it's been so far.
Well, the lines have kind of settled down now. Aaron's kind of picked the players which play who you've been playing with, Owen Griffiths and Chris Jones, two very two-way kind of players. How's it been playing on a line with those boys?
It's been really, really nice. Obviously, Griff's coming in new this year as well,
Yeah.
but Jonesy's been here for a while, and I mean, they've kind of made my transition really easy. Obviously, like you said, they're both really good 200-foot players, and so I think kind of starts in practice and things like that. But I feel like we've been able to kind of find some chemistry and some connections out there. And obviously, as you go on, you learn more about who they are as players, and you learn different things about where they're going to be, when they're going to be there, and things like that.
Yeah, the two Welsh boys
Yeah.
next to yourself. Talking about the start of the season, then the one thing I've noticed personally, obviously being a Wildcats fan, is how we've shut down games this season. And going into that third period, I picked out a crazy stat. In our 8 games, we've only conceded 2 goals in the third period. Why do you personally, obviously being part of the team, think Swindon have been able to shut those games down once we've got a lead?
Well, I think it definitely starts with Rennie. Rennie's been awesome for us all
Yeah.
year, but after that, I think kind of we've set ourselves up in positions where that's the kind of game we need to play. And I think Aaron does a good job. The guys in the room, the leaders do a good job of kind of preaching that we got to start in the D zone and work from there. And I mean, in a lot of those games, we put ourselves in positions where we really don't actually need to score anymore, but we
Yeah.
can't. We need to prevent them from scoring. So I think it just kind of starts with a defensive mindset, and I think that's really helped us so far.
One thing my brother noticed actually, you don't get many penalty minutes. I don't want to jinx that, but you across your seasons, you're not really in the box too much. But you pride yourself in that kind of two-way defensive game, but also chipping in with offense as well. For those who haven't watched you, how would you kind of describe your game?
Yeah, I think you described it pretty well. I try to be a good 200-foot player, and obviously like to chip in on the offense when I can, and yeah, just try to keep it clean. Obviously, discipline's something that we preach a lot. So trying to do my part in that.
Yeah, as I said, I don't want to jinx anything. But yeah, how have you found the league points wise? Because the National League is known for players getting maybe a few more points than in other leagues, but there is a few more games than played in this league than other leagues. So how have you found adjusting to maybe a few more high scoring games?
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely seeing some scores. I think it's been an adjustment more than almost the games that we've played in.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, like you said, compared to last year, we play a lot more games than I did. So I haven't found it to be too much of an adjustment yet. And obviously, hopefully, we can keep it going and keep playing the way that we want to be playing, which is avoiding some of those high scoring back and forth games.
Is it weird for you that the league is the most important kind of trophy to win in England and not the playoffs, having played in America?
Yeah, that was something that's definitely an adjustment that I found out a little bit before I got here, kind of talking with Aaron over the phone. But yeah, that was something that was very different to me actually.
Yeah, me and Charlie have always said the playoffs is great to win because Coventry weekend is unbelievable, but the league shows the best team, I guess. And is that a bit of a change for you that you have to be on your game every single game, and maybe that's a reason why games are so close with every team in the league because they're playing for points.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of something that I've grown to like is knowing that every game is very important and you don't want to look back in February, March on a game that happened in October and say, "Oh man, I wish like we had an extra gear that night." Like that, you don't want those games to come back to bite you. So I think that's something that I've actually really enjoyed is knowing how important every single game is.
Yeah. Obviously you've been living with Logan, who's also new to the National League in Swindon. How's that been? Who's the kind of cook in the house?
We've both been cooking, honestly. It kind
Really?
of depends. Yeah, it depends on the day. If we're doing something together or if we're on different pages and cooking our own meals. But obviously still getting out and getting some food with the rest of the guys sometimes as well.
Nice one. And how do you like Logan's game? He brings something a bit different, I think, to the team, which that speed kind of skill element.
Yeah, absolutely. No, extremely good skater, extremely fast
Yeah.
skater, and so it's been fun to watch. And obviously living with him and skating with him in practice is kind of things we pick up from each other that I think is beneficial as well.
Nice one. It's early on in the season, but kind of what were your expectations coming into it for the team? I know Aaron had high expectations in the team that he's got to win trophies this season.
Yeah, I think that was my whole mindset of coming over here. I know we touched on that earlier, is after especially after last year, I was I wanted to come somewhere where the expectation was to win, and I think that's kind of the standard that's been set. So I think that's what we're looking for going forward.
And I remember you saying in the pub last week, you've already got more wins this season than the whole of the last season. That must be nice to get it by October.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a crazy stat that is actually true. But yeah, no, I mean obviously it's nice to be a part of a team like this, and hopefully we can keep up that same success.
And then finally, we always end the interviews talking about the fans. How's it been playing in front of the Swindon fans who come out every weekend? We got the big Oktoberfest weekend as well this weekend.
Yeah, it's been awesome. The fans have been great. It's been great getting to meet them. And yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, probably since juniors when it was like a dollar beer night where fans are like beating me to the rink. And I like to get there early too, so it's a statement that they're beating us to the rink, and so no, it's been awesome. They brought the energy, and it definitely makes it fun to play at home.
Well, one last question from me. Have you been surprised of the fan bases in England, considering it's not one of the main sports, and how they're coming out in their numbers? Like, I think Swindon are averaging 1,400 fans a game at home.
Yeah, actually, I've been really surprised. I know, like talking with Aaron over the summer, like he was telling me about the fan support and that we have really good fans and that there's good fans overall in the league, but obviously hockey not being the number one sport here, I wasn't fully sure what that meant. So yeah, I think I've been really pleasantly surprised kind of just around the league in general and the fan support.
Yeah, the Wildcats fans, you get the same ones every year. But yeah, I appreciate you hopping on. Good luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully we can bring back some silverware to Swindon.
Absolutely appreciate you having me.
Perfect. Thanks, Tyler.
Take care.
But we'll get into the games around the league. And the early one was a really big shock. I think this is shock of the weekend for me. The Romford Raiders at home against the Tigers. Now, we know Romford are good at home. They've got that home crowd. They get the momentum down. They were missing Shaw Miller again. We hope everything's all right. Hopefully he can come back soon because yeah, it is a massive loss. But they were also missing Leishram, and we said Dan before the season, if you do sign Leishram as a player, you've got that chance where he might not be able to play some games. Now, hopefully, again, his isn't a serious injury, if it is an injury at all. But they were down Miller and Leishram. They went 2-0 down within the first 10 minutes to Telford, who are scoring at an average of 6.5 goals a game. Probably the hottest goal scorers in the league. They went 2-0 down. They could have thrown in the towel there, Dan, couldn't they? Not having probably your two best players. But they fight back into it. TJ Anderson, I guess the leader of that with a goal and two assists, just taking on that role of being one of the main guys. And they get five different goal scorers and beat Telford 5-3. And just, you cannot write this Romford team off, can you? It doesn't matter if on paper maybe they don't look as strong as other teams. At home, they can. They're just nuts, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the thing is obviously having those two guys out the lineup is going to do to Romford. It's just going to bring them closer together. And those players that were on the ice are all going to be out there for each other, and they're all going to be playing for the Romford Raiders, and they're going to be wanting to win that game for the fans. And I think Romford are the type of team that will go into that game, and they don't care where you are in the league. They don't care what you've been like in previous games. All they care about is the moment and how you're going to come out on the ice in that game. And that's obviously how Romford looked at it. And watching TJ against Swindon the other weekend, I can tell that TJ is going to have a really good year this year. He just
Yeah, good
everything
shot.
about his game just looks 10 times better. It looks like he's really worked on a lot this year, and I think he's definitely going to be that front runner for obviously creating chances and creating offense, especially while these imports are out. Like you said, fingers crossed they can come back quickly. But yeah, TJ is going to have an unbelievable year this year.
Yeah, he's getting that responsibility even more than last year, probably being the number one Brit. But it all starts with the goalie. They signed the import goalie, and this is why you sign the import goalie because he had 51 shots on him, saving 48 out of 50. Sorry, 51. That is just mental, and the Raiders get a huge 2 points at home, and it just feels like every 2 points for these teams who we think are going to be battling for that playoff spot, and I think Romford is one of them. It's just a vital 2 points, especially when teams around them are dropping points. So, yeah, big 2 points for the Raiders. Onto that game at the Link Centre. I was a bit nervous coming into it, I'll be honest. You're looking on paper at the Sheffield forward core and even their defensemen, which they brought in, the likes of Shudra going onto the top line with Watson, Gendunov. You've then got Nordstrom, Larenmar, and Sommer. It's just, you got Jonathan Phillips on a third line. It was a very depthy team on paper, but the Wildcats, Stan, are just absolutely rolling at the moment. we went a goal behind and instant response, Sam Godfrey coming in. He always scores in October. Like, if you look back through the archives, he just scores in October. He got the first goal. Aaron now gets a snipe for the second. And then the second period down was just an onslaught, a collapse from the Steel Dogs. But Ryan Wells, Dan, we've spoke about him so many times on this podcast. We've given him all the praise. We've hyped him up. I don't think there's anything else we can say about him. Yes, we're up his arse here because he is, for me, the best player in this league. He he's known for he gets two goals and an assist on the night, right? But that's not even the most impressive part. Those forwards I mentioned earlier on, the likes of Sommer, the likes of Gendunov, Sommer and Gendunov didn't get a single point, and that was because of Ryan Wells and how good he is at shutting down these big forwards, Dan. And yes, he got the two goals, which are really nice goals, jumping in on the play, but it's all about shutting those top guys down, and he rightfully got that player of the match, and we're just so lucky to have him.
Yeah, I mean, with that Swindon decor, obviously you Ryan can sort of play a bit more offensively this year. You can see that he is carrying the puck a bit more and showing what he can do offensively, which is always going to be a good thing for Swindon fans because he is very talented at both ends of the ice.
Yeah.
Um, but the fact that he's got that freedom this year, I think is just gonna as much, yeah, as we've said, he's really good. I think it's just going to step him up that little bit more. The fact that he can do the offensive side as well, and he can show what he can do, because we saw little glimpses of it last season, but he knew that he had to sort of stay back and he had to stay more defensive than sort of the other team, and he had to be that guy that was going to be there to shut down everyone. But now he's got that a lot. He's got a lot more support now in the decor, and he can
Yeah.
yeah he can really show off both ends of his game.
Yeah, he's over a point per game, 9 points in 8 games. I think he's very clever at picking his moments on when he's going to pinch forward, seeing the gaps, knowing. I think just him and Godfrey know each other so well with that deep pairing. And then Tyler Watkins with one of the most casual breakaway goals you'll see, just slotting it through the legs. Cole Shudra did score. It was handed to him on the plate by Ben O'Connor. There's about 10 seconds left on the power play. And O'Connor fired it. It was a nice block from Shudre, then raced away 1-on-1. It was a really nice finish. But Dan, I've got a stat for you, and actually, we'll get to this stat after we talk about the Sunday game because this Wildcats stat is pretty mental when you think about it. So I'm going to let the viewers wait for that one. But yeah, just a really nice win for the Wildcats, 5-2 against the Steel Dogs. And Dan, with the Steel Dogs, obviously they got a big win on the Sunday, which we'll go into in a bit. But yeah, it's gonna take time with these players, and I would not be surprised if maybe there are some changes because there were high expectations for them before the season. We know Slava has high expectations as well, and if some of these players aren't pulling their weight, I could see movement.
Yeah, I think the season's definitely not started how they wanted it to. Like we've said in the pod before, they've definitely put work in this summer, and they definitely had a sort of they had a view of what they wanted and an expectation of these guys. And I don't think there's a lot of players there that have reached that expectation. But also, it is early on in the year. These players are going to take time. It's like we said, it's a whole new team. There's a lot of new pieces in that team, and it's gonna take a while. Obviously, having a new coach as well, he's got to put his systems into this team as well, which maybe they've never seen those systems before. So it's all a bit of a learning curve for everyone. But this team has definitely got the tools to be a very good team.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I think just take a bit of time and sort of review it after the halfway point of the year and see where they're at.
Yeah, but they did have a positive on the Sunday, which they
They
needed.
needed that.
Yeah, but we'll go on to the next game, the one you were at, Dan. I guess was it your first league away game of the season? No, sorry, you were at
No,
Telford the week
we had
before. But
Telford, yeah.
sorry, but it was your third game against Bristol, but the first one in the league. And yeah, what a game that must have been to go to. 2-2 going into that final 5 minutes of the game, Dan, and Brendan Sellen gets a big goal, and then you close it out in the end to win 5-2. But I think the big talking point, which I'm sure you're going to mention, is Max Wright, who saved 56 shots out of 58 on the night. And that again, like we said with CC, that's why you bring the import netminder in to play at that level and win them games. But yeah, talk us through the game, Dan, because it sounded like it was a very good road performance.
Yeah, I mean, Max Wright's not too bad, is he? He's all right. Um, but no, we've obviously went into that building and we've won in that building twice already this year, obviously in pre-season. Um, so we went into it sort of with that confidence, even though we didn't play last weekend, and we knew we sort of had to start well, because if Bristol start well in their own barn, they're gonna capitalize on their chances. But we came out strong. A big goal from Hallam Wilson, who's had a really good start to the year. He scored our first goal, and then another guy that was unbelievable on the night was Tom Ralph. He was just all over the ice, and he's really showing that offensive produce that he can do. I was talking to him before the season, and he said he wants to have a better year points wise, and
Yeah.
he wants to show what he can do offensively.
Did
And
he get? I don't
he's
think he scored last year, did he? And he's already got
no,
a
he's
goal this
scored two
season.
in both games. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, the goal in Bristol was very, very nice as well. A nice, well worked play, and then got the 1-2 off. But yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Tom Ralph, and I'm really liking that he's been able to just play his game. He can just have the freedom and just sort of do what he wants, which is really nice to see. Um, but yeah, we obviously started the period off really well, went 2-0 going into the second period, and then obviously getting that match fitness, we haven't got that yet. It's going to take time for that. But Bristol obviously came out firing, and they came out with a game plan in the second period for sure. They were hemming us in the zone. They were very hard on the forecheck, really getting the puck out of the boards and just getting shots off. And they obviously managed to tie the game up. John Dunbar scored a big goal to make it 2-2 with a tip. And then yeah, we came into the third period, and to be fair, we were under the cosh for pretty much the whole of the third period. I'm not going to lie. I think they had about 30 shots in the third period, and we had 10. If the game sheet is right.
Yeah, 30-10. I
Um,
don't know how accurate the
yeah,
scorekeepers are, but
I don't know if that is accurate, but it it seemed like they were in the zone quite a lot, and I was definitely nervous. But like I said, in hockey, it only takes one shot to go in, and that's what happened. Obviously, Shankar getting a shot from the point into Sellen's stick and just tipping it home. And after that pressure that Bristol have had that period, and then we go and score that, I think that really dropped their head. And
oh, took it out of them.
obviously,
Yeah.
and then obviously we went and scored the empty net. And then Harden went and scored as well after that, which was a really nice goal too. He's had a good start to the year in Basingstoke. But yeah, it was just a gutsy performance in the end, and yeah, Max Wright is unreal, and that's literally what I said on the night. That is the perfect game to show off why you need that import goalie and that top netminder in your net to keep you in games like that and really win you the game. To be honest.
Yeah, it's a big 2 points for Basingstoke, and it's a tough one to drop for Bristol, not even getting a point out of it at home. That was one which they probably circled to say we got to get 2 points here. Basingstoke didn't play the weekend before. They only played one game before that. They haven't really had too much training. So fair play to the Bison for pulling off that 2 points on the road. On to the big one, MK Lightning against Leeds Knights in Milton Keynes. And last year was a bit weird because Leeds did really well in MK, but MK did really well in Leeds. So I was wondering going into this one, and we all thought the Lightning would come out with the 2 points and be able to get the job done at home because they've looked really solid at home so far this season. And you saw them a week before down against Peterborough, and they look really good against the Phantoms. But the Leeds Knights, they came out with a game plan, and before we even get into the game, the Knights were missing Mac Howlett. They were also missing Griffin and Baldwin, who are two big defensemen for them. In steps, 16-year-old Jonas Bennett and 17-year-old Liam Hine to play in that decor for Leeds. And then they had the likes of Vengis and Danny Harrison coming in. I think there was four Leeds Knights 2 players playing in the Leeds Knights in Milton Keynes. And they took the lead through Balint Pacosti actually getting onto a rebound on the power play. Milton Keynes then got one back, a really nice penalty shot from Jordan County. And then, Dan, we talk about big game players, and we said this season Brown was going to have to take that step up even more because of maybe the loss of some players like Haywood, Barron. I know they've brought in some imports, but you just know Kieran Brown was in for a big season. And that short-handed goal, I don't know if you've seen the highlights,
Not
gets
yet.
races away short-handed, toe drags it past Malik and just fires it top corner. And players, when you're that guy, Dan, when you see that moment, you don't even think about it not going right. You just fire it in, and it was just the most Kieran Brown goal. And he does that, and I'll get on to the third goal because it was the complete opposite, where it was a really nice play from the third line with Edgar's Vengistan. So you're getting Kieran Brown score a really nice goal, and then you're getting that third line grinding for a goal. And I think that just shows what Leeds Knights are all about, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the way to play against MK. You have to play all your lines. You have to be able to match the lines that MK are going to throw out there. As hard as it is, because obviously their depth is very, very good this year. You just have to outwork and you just have to play your game and just stick to a game plan against MK. And if any team's going to do it, it's going to be Leeds. They've played so many big games in that building. And I mean, you wouldn't even say this game's a big game, if you know what I mean. Like, it's the start of the
Very
season. It's
early
the
on, yeah.
first time they're facing each other. It's not like there's much pressure, but I think it's just the fact that obviously Leeds and MK have been going at each other for the past two seasons. It's just added on to that. So they obviously wanted to get that first win under the belt. But yeah, Leeds go into MK and they always go in with a game plan. And if it comes off, then it's always going to go one way for Leeds.
Yeah, and it starts with the goalie, Sam Gospel. We always said this, and Aaron's always said this to me when we've played in Milton Keynes. If you're going to win an MK, your goalie's got to be good for starters. And I don't think a team has really won in Milton Keynes the last couple of years if their goalie's not been one of their best players. Sam Gospel made some really, really good saves. It says Jonas Bennett scored. Unfortunately, he didn't. Watching the highlights, it was another Kieran Brown goal. Again, just if you're gonna picture a Kieran Brown goal, it's that he's got such a good shot. And then the empty net goal. And that is a huge win for Leeds, man. And knocking down Milton Keynes when they've been so good at home ice. And I know a lot of Milton Keynes fans weren't happy. It's going to happen, as you said, Dan. It's early on. You'd rather lose that game earlier on in the season, and then maybe if there's one later on in the season and it's a bigger game, you win that one. But it's a huge 2 points for Leeds, and it shows
Can
that
I just
MK are still beatable on their home ice.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'll be worried about if I was an MK fan is the import selection again.
All right,
Um,
can we go on to this? Right, so
yeah,
I've been chatting with Dan and Charlie, and this is just our opinions. All right, this is just fan opinions. We're a fan podcast. I think, and I think you agree as well, Dan, having the five imports is actually just creating another little, not
it's just a
problem, but
burden.
another little hassle where you've got to get rid of one every game. And Karenchuk, for me, he scored the overtime winning goal in Hull. He's very quick. He suits that big ice. I was so confused why he was the one who got dropped. And we call it Milton Keynes import bingo because it is bingo. You just don't know who's gonna be the one to get dropped down. But go on, I'll let you talk on it.
Yeah, no, it's just confusing the way that it happens. Like I don't get it. It's like you said, it is just a burden. Like Tim Wallace is gonna have to go into that locker room and he's gonna have to choose a guy every night. And I mean, I'm not saying Tim Wallace is the type of guy that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to give you this game because I didn't give you the game last time. He should give it to who he thinks deserves the spot.
Yeah.
But unless Karenchuk did anything through the week in training, I don't see like there was any reason why he should have been dropped. Like unless he was playing, like he had a little niggle, maybe he was injured, but he
But he
was playing
played
the
on the
next night.
Sunday.
So yeah, he played the next night. So I can't see that either. But I the fact that Jokinen's play when he has played in the games, he's not looked as good as any of the other imports they've got. I just don't understand why they put him out there for a game against Leeds, because
Yeah,
that
biggest game.
arguably is the biggest game for them. And like they surely they will just play the favoured import, and the guy that's been actually scoring fairly good points for MK to start the year. And it just confuses me the way that it obviously just carries on like that. And you can obviously tell Tim Wallace made a mistake because he just went back to the original lineup the next
Yeah,
night.
I think when you,
But
I, I think with it, right? I know this sounds really basic, but if you're changing the import every single game, it means the lines are having to change every single game. So you're getting different forwards play with different forwards, and all it takes is one forward to come off one line, and then that messes up another line. So you're not going to get your consistent run of games with players on the same line if you're picking out an import each time. And I get it's early on in the season. I completely get that. And the teams are still trying to find their ways, who works well with who. Aaron switched up the lines on the Sunday when we weren't able to score against Bison. But Dan, I just think it was a talk before the season, them getting five imports, and it's going to be a talk for the rest of the season whilst they have the five imports, because no one else has got five imports. So, yeah, we won't ramble on loads about it, but as you said, Dan, it is quite confusing, and we always come on the Saturday and go, right, who's going to get dropped this game? Like, we genuinely don't know who it will be. But the final game on the Saturday was the Peterborough Phantoms against the Hull Seahawks. And even without Brad Bowring at home, Dan, Peterborough, so good at home. And they proved it once again. And it was Cam Huff with the late dagger on the power play to make it 4-2. They got a consolation with Cornell, but yeah, Peterborough are just so good at home. Hull with another loss on the road. They just can't seem to pick any momentum up. They haven't won a game away from home yet, but Luke Farrar with another couple goals. It's just we've said what we need to say about Peterborough at home, haven't we, Dan? They might lose some games away, and they lost the game on Sunday, which we'll touch on. But at home, they're Peterborough.
yeah, and obviously you're playing against a whole team that is very offensive, and very they've got a lot of threat in offense. But Levine obviously it seemed like he had another good night.
Yeah, right.
He
Sorry. The scorekeepers have got to be on the booze because 62 shots
lots of shots
from
this
Hull.
weekend.
Um, yeah, that's mental. If that's true, fair play, Levine. And you got to ask, why are some of these shots not going in? Because if you're having 62 shots, but yeah, carry on, Dab.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Levine came up big, and like you said before, when you're playing in games like that, your goalie has to be the best player on the ice, and
Yeah.
obviously he came up strong, especially not having Barron as well. That's a D man down, a big D man for them as well. So the D had to sort of tighten up a lot more and come together as a group and really defend against that whole team. And then obviously, like you said, the big forward stepped up, Ferrara stepped up, Huff stepped up. And that's what you need against in games like that. And obviously, Peterborough do know how to play on that home ice as well. Teams don't like traveling there, and they took advantage of that. And that's a big win for Peterborough against Hull.
Yeah, it's another 2 points. On to the Sunday, and the Steel Dogs did end that loss streak at home. They had three losses on the bounce. They kind of needed to win this one down, but at the same time, Milton Keynes, they didn't want two losses in a row because it's very rare for them to not win a single game on a weekend. Well, it looked like that was going to be the case. Ollie Nags, Walker Sommer getting the goals for Sheffield. But Ilya Karenchuk, the guy who probably should have been playing on the Saturday, got him a point. He's got the MK a point because he scored with less than a minute to go to tie it up. But Jonathan Phillips gave the Steel Dogs the win in overtime, and it doesn't matter how they've done it, but they've got to win at home, Dan. And yeah, as you said, it's been a tough kind of few first weeks for Sheffield, but it's early days. And if there's any time to get momentum now, it's after a big win at home, which they haven't managed to do the last few weeks.
And that's it. We said that last week. We said if Sheffield are going to gain any momentum from this weekend, they need to beat either
Milton
Swindon
Keynes.
or Milton Keynes,
Yeah.
and they go out and they beat MK. And like you said, it doesn't matter if it's in overtime. It doesn't matter if they scored late on to equalise it. It doesn't matter. You got the 2 points at the end of that night, and hopefully for them they can gain a bit of momentum from that and really start going on a roll now, especially playing the home games. You need to win at home if you want to start going up the table, because we always know the road games are always the harder ones.
Yeah, absolutely. As for Milton Keynes, it's early days. We've said it with the Leeds game. You'd rather lose earlier on and then win lots in the back half of the season. Um, I've seen a lot of Milton Keynes fans saying there needs to be changes made. I'd say the only change or something I'd change is the fact that there's 5 imports. I think just get the 4 imports, stick with 4, and then have your consistent run of lines for the season. But we'll see what happens. I don't think there'll be any changes made drastically early on. Maybe Christmas time if it's not going well, but it's still very early days. On to another early game, which we were at, the home away game for the Bison, at the Link Centre against the Wildcats. And Dan, it wasn't your goal fest, but flipping heck, it was a very tense game, wasn't it? And yeah, fair play to the Bison. I just want to say, fair play to the Bison. They haven't played 2 games in a row, yeah, all season.
Since pre-season.
Well, since pre-season, yeah. So, and they come into this game after Max Wright had faced 58 shots the night before. And you knew the Wildcats were probably going to dominate the game. Obviously, it is their home ice. I know it was the Basingstoke home game. It was nice to see a lot of Basingstoke fans there. Just over 1,000 fans for a rescheduled game is absolutely brilliant. And the first period, again, really nice defending from the Bison. The Wildcats created chances. The second period, same again. There's a few penalties, a few power plays, but neither team could really break the deadlock. I thought the Bison were better in the second period than they were the first. And then the third period comes, and I got to say, Dan, it was a third period onslaught, and it was looking like no one was going to score. It genuinely was that sort of game where when Rennie had to save something, he would. But when all these shots going at Max Wright, some of the saves he made on that 5-on-3 were unbelievable. The way he reads the play, he covers the angles well, post to post. You can't fault him. And I said to Dad, it was either going to take a moment of magic or just one of those scrappy goals. And Bebris probably hadn't parked himself in front of the goal the whole night, and he decides to just stand in front of Wright. O'Connor fires one in, it comes off his leg and goes in, and it was gutting for the Bison because they worked very, very hard defensively as a core, not just Max Wright, but the defensive core to help him. And it ended up going to the Wildcats' way. I think the Wildcats, Dan, did deserve it, but it doesn't mean it's not gutting for Bison.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's always going to be tough going into a Swindon rink, even though it is a home game,
Yeah.
but it's still Swindon's rink. And Swindon have started the year off so well. Obviously, they've only dropped 1 point,
Yeah.
and that was to Peterborough away. So you're coming into this game without training. I'm not using it as an excuse. Without
Yeah.
match fitness, tough night in Bristol the night before. I'll if someone told me it's going to be 2-0 at the end of this game, I would take
With
it
an
in a
empty
heartbeat.
netter.
Yeah, so pretty much 1-0. But like I would take that because obviously this team, once we get a bit of rhythm going, it shows that we can compete. We can compete against teams. And I think the thing that I'm going to take away from this weekend is we can't rely on Max Wright to have weekends like that again. He's not going to have weekends like that every weekend. We can't let him tire out in games. We can't. We have to protect him. The D have to come together even more. We've got the D men there that are capable. We just need to really protect Wright and just let him see pucks. We don't want him to be overworked because, like I said, he's not going to be able to keep that up throughout the whole year, and we are going to get stung if we keep doing that. We need to get some offense going. But that was the one thing that we lacked in Swindon. I know Swindon have got that very, very strong decor, but we just need to start creating a bit more chances. And like I said in Bristol as well, we only had 10 shots in the third period. We need to start getting shots off. We need to start our zone entries need to be better. But like I said, we haven't trained. We need to get some actual rhythm going in games. We need to get some training going, and then we can work on things and get some line combinations going. But from what I've seen of Bison early on, I'm very happy, and it's looking positive going into the year.
Yeah, I think you can tell there's a bit more work to be done, but it's early days. And they've still got some points on the board in Bristol, which is great before you even get your rink back. The stat then, before I forget, for the Wildcats have obviously 8 games played this season, 8 third periods played. So that's 160 minutes worth of third periods. The Wildcats have conceded 2 goals. 2 goals in 8 third periods. And you're talking games against twice against Hull, twice against Sheffield, where we've been leading going into the third. So it just shows how far the Cats have come defensively, shutting down games we've seen in the past few years. We've let it slip in games in that third period. I think that just speaks level of the depth we got, and we are lucky to have that depth. Um, One thing I will say, a bit of a negative, but a positive in a way, that our power play is not really clicking. It's maybe penalty kills have got better. I do think that around the league, but our power play isn't quite clicking like it was last season. Obviously, it's a change of O'Connor coming in. You've got a couple new imports, but the fact, Dan, that we've only dropped 1 point, and we're top of the league with 15 out of 16, and our power. I'm talking about our power play not being quite there. Just shows the start we've had.
Yeah, it just shows what having that strong decor can do.
Yeah,
Like you said, you're keeping the scores low, which means you're taking the pressure off those forwards. Maybe you don't have to score those big power play goals because you're comfortably defending the game out and you're
yeah.
defending the teams comfortably. You're keeping the pucks out your net.
It would be
So
nice to score a couple more.
yeah, I mean it's always nice to score on the power play, but when you've got games when it's like 4-1 and 3-1 and nice low scoring games, it shows that you're not having to rely on that offense too
Yeah.
much. You're just sort of you're having a good balance of play throughout the whole team.
Yeah, I agree. I've just been so impressed with the defensive start we've had. On to the Knights, and they have now won 6 in a row, 6-2 win over the Sharks. I think we did predict them to win on the Sunday, but it makes it even better after that win in Milton Keynes on the Saturday. Dara Sporforth's got his second of the season. Again, he's just finding those little pockets, those areas. Endicott, Innes Gallagher, Braden, all the young guns getting the goals for the Leeds Knights, and Kieran Brown as well. You couldn't leave him off the score sheet. He got a couple goals, and the Knights got a 4 point weekend. Solway, I don't think any of us really predicted them to win that game. Again, just waiting for that rink to come back so they can start playing some home games. And then same with the whole Seahawks. They had to win this game. They had to win this game against the Raiders at home with no Miller, no Lashram. They had to win it, and they did. They didn't score in the first period, but they scored 4 goals in that second period, and another 2. Bo Reeder, shout out to him. The young lad from Hull, 16 years old. He got a couple goals. Again, just reading the play, getting in the slot. And I think, Dan, the main thing for these young players now is you just got to crash the net, because good things will happen when you just loiter around the net.
Yeah, that's it's what all these players have said. If you want good things to happen, you just need to drive the net and just get in a position because it doesn't matter if it's not a nice goal, even
Yeah.
if it's just a little tap in and just a little scrappy goal. A goal's a goal. And the thing is, in this league now, you're not going to be able to just skate the puck up the wing and beat a guy in D and beat the goalie. You do have to just get those scrappy goals and gain a bit of confidence from that, and then you can start working on it. But it was pretty cool to see that Bo Reeder was. I don't know if it was just because they're in the middle of a line change, but Bo Reeder was on a
Sobchak.
line with Sobchak, who obviously passed the puck to him, which is pretty cool for him and a pretty cool experience to have that opportunity playing in Hull. Obviously, he's been a Hull fan his whole life and probably been dreaming of that. So yeah, well done to him.
Yeah, 16 years old. And then the final game is Telford against the Phantoms, and we expected a big response from Telford dropping that game the night before. That was a cup game against Romford as well, and we've seen how good Telford have been in the cup. They don't want to drop the games like that. But they win 4-1 against the Phantoms with 4 goals in the second period. And yeah, that's a big 2 points for Telford. The games between Phantoms and Telford are always so close. Phantoms nicked it in penalty shots a couple weeks ago, but yeah, just a lapse of concentration, I think, in that second period, Dan, and it's cost the Phantoms the game really. But I expected nothing less from Telford because Tom Watkins would have been very frustrated that they lost that game on Saturday, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the interview and yeah, he wasn't impressed how the team came out, and I can imagine he would have given them a good talking to before that game. And I can imagine Peterborough tried to play the same sort of game they did against Hull, sort of defending and just trying to defend first and then just try and score on the counter. But they obviously didn't work against Telford, and they came out with a game plan obviously, and really had to win that game for Tom Watkins really, because he wouldn't have been impressed with that whole weekend. But yeah, no, it's a good win for Telford to just get that bit of momentum rolling again. Obviously, it was that loss on Saturday. Probably dropped their heads a little bit, but it's the way that they answer to these games is the biggest difference, and that's what Telford did. They answered in a positive way to that game and showed that they're still there fighting. And I think what are they, third in the league now?
Well, they're unbeaten at home. That's the main thing. They're just such a good home team.
And did McPhee get another goal? I think
Well,
did
just
McPhee.
about, I'm on his
Yeah.
page right now because he's got 11 points in them 7 games, 4 goals. He's scored a few snipes already. And tell you what, say what you want about his stats in the U Sports, him being defensive D man. It's different when you come to the National League. Some players just find that attacking prowess, and yeah, he's having a fantastic start to the season. It feels like he's been playing in the National League for ages. On to the games ahead this weekend, then, to end the episode. And we got a Friday night game again. And of course, it's the Steel Dogs. They love the Friday night games, obviously, so they can try and get a few Steelers fans to come through the doors. And it's a big one. It's against the Leeds Knights. So expect a lot of the Leeds Knights fans to make that trip to Sheffield. The Swindon Wildcats at home against the Peterborough Phantoms, a game where we can try and get that revenge, obviously, on the overtime loss, well, our only loss of the season. The big one, Dan, Bison Solway. Obviously, we mentioned it
Oh,
right at the start of the episode. That is going to be bouncing. Hopefully, a sellout or close to a sellout at Basingstoke Arena. What's the rink called? Does it have a
the
name?
barn.
The Barn. All right, we'll call it the Barn. Um, Pitbulls against Hull. Now, what happened last time, Dan, the Pitbulls played against the Hull Seahawks? Can you remember?
Gloves were thrown and helmets were thrown and sticks were snapped.
Yeah, and the rest, I think.
And
The game was
Batch was there as well
abandoned.
in the crowd.
Yeah, the game was abandoned. So let's hope this one doesn't get abandoned. But yeah, expect some fireworks, expect goals in this one. Bristol against Hull. Bristol, they need to get a win at home. I don't think they've won at home yet. I know they have won at home against Solway, but they need to get back to winning at home because those are the type of wins which are going to get you that playoff spot. As for Hull, they still need their first away win, and you cannot take Bristol lightly, especially with only the 58 shots they got against Basingstoke last weekend. MK against Telford. Again, this is a big one for them to bounce back in. Telford, though, that'll be a tough game. Obviously, Telford beat Milton Keynes in their barn a couple of weeks ago to start the season. And then the Sheffield Steel Dogs against the Raiders. That'll be a really interesting game. I'm just really hoping Raiders can get their import forwards back so they can really compete at their top level. And then it's the rematch down on the Sunday, Leeds against MK, but in Leeds. And you know
Oh,
what?
that'd be a
MK are
good one.
winning this because that's just how the script goes, isn't it?
Yeah, MK actually don't do too bad in Leeds.
No.
Over the years they actually have had some really big wins in Leeds. So yeah, they're definitely gonna be come out firing in that game. They're gonna want an answer against Leeds again. And I mean, is it too early to start the import bingo for that one, or are we starting that on Saturday night?
Oh, no, we're not going to cause any controversy. Romford against Bristol again, another huge game. Yeah, I can't call that one. And then your big, probably the first long away game of the season,
Proper road
Dan.
trip, that one.
Yeah,
Proper.
you're away at Hull. That'll be a big one. I could see Hull having a lot of shots, so it'll be a big night for Max Wright on that one. And then the final two to end the weekend: Peterborough at home to the Solway Sharks, and then the Telford Tigers at home to the Swindon Wildcats. So that'll be a really, really good game as well. That'll be a big test for our defensive core and that record, not record, but that stat which I said earlier. So yeah, the best scoring team against the best defensive team in the league. But yeah, that wraps up the episode, Dan. I've got work in the morning, so I need to get this wrapped up and uploaded. But anything else to add?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing actually. I just had a little thought. It might be a weird one, but Saturday night, it wouldn't surprise me if we started Bray. Opening night in Basingstoke, put Bray out there. Obviously, Wright's had a busy weekend, keep him fresh, ready for Hull away. It wouldn't surprise me if we started Bray, but at the same time, do we just go with a starter and sort of try and hopefully nail on that win at home?
Yeah, I think it's unpopular opinion. I'll be honest. I think
Yeah,
Wright
I just had a
probably
little
does
thought now.
start, but he did face over 100 shots. We'll have to see. But yeah, by the time we film next week's episode, um, yeah, you would have had your first home game, which is just crazy to say. Oh, thanks for Tyler, by the way, for hopping on the podcast. I would have edited that in somewhere, probably after the news. But yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.